Hello, YouTube. So, let's start off the new year with a Christmas movie, because I am really bad at scheduling. So, yeah, I meant to do this last year, but I had a lot of editing to do for the Blues Brothers 2001, and I was just lazy and didn't want to do any more. So, yeah. So there's my excellent reason. So yeah, but hey, I'm sure that there are still some people that are still in the Christmas spirit. I mean, I'm not. I'm more of a Halloween person personally, but I'm sure there are some people. So yeah, let's talk about Better Watch Out. So I'm gonna do something a little bit different for this movie. I'm gonna try and not spoil it first, because while I do want to talk about this movie in detail, I want to save that because I think this is a film that you really should go in spoiler free for. Something that apparently everyone in the comment section of the trailer does not understand is they try to spoil it, and I really don't get that, because seriously, like, we complain about trailers spoiling everything, but now we complain about them not doing that. What do you people want? Seriously, this was a really good trailer, and I like the way that deceived people. Seriously, why do people have a problem with that? Did you miss the entire point? But yeah, seriously. And this is a movie that you should go in spoiler free for, so I'm going to try and do that a little bit in the opening here. So this movie is pretty much about Ashley, a babysitter who's going off to college soon and has one last job babysitting Luke, who has sort of a thing for her and has for a while, and tonight he's hoping to get lucky. So he tries to wear her down for a bit. However, then it seems that they have an unexpected guest, not just his friend Garrett, but also someone who threw in a brick through his window saying, "If you leave, you die." This quickly becomes a home invasion scenario in which they try to survive. So that's pretty much the basic premise, and it's really good. I highly recommend this film. For one, let's start off with kind of a weird thing. Let's start off with the negative of this. Now, to me, one of the biggest negatives is the fact that this is a Christmas horror movie, but Christmas feels completely inconsequential in this. It really doesn't feel like there's any reason for this to take place during Christmas. It just sort of feels like the killer in this could be doing this any time of year, and I feel like they could have really used that. This could have been a Thanksgiving horror movie. How many Thanksgiving horror movies are there? I mean, yeah, okay, you could say Thanksgiving, but yeah, are we really gonna act like that's a good movie here? So, yeah, this really could have had a chance to actually embrace a very underappreciated holiday, or just try and branch out and make itself a little bit more distinctive, but unfortunately it didn't. However, I would say that it does completely embrace the Christmas stuff. It's just, it doesn't really feel like it's needed. It honestly sort of feels like they just wanted to set it during Christmas, so they sort of found a way to do that, whereas it could have easily been any other holiday, and I think that would have been fine too. However, I do like how it embraced Christmas, and I do understand why it did this as a sort of contrast, but that's been done a lot of times before, and I feel like this film could have very much distinguished itself a little bit more if it did try to go for a different holiday. So that's kind of one of my non-spoiler negatives. So yeah, let's talk about the positives in this. The cast is really good. If you like The Visit, then you'll very much enjoy this, I think. Because there are actually two actors from that are in this. That being the two grandkids from that movie are now playing opposite each other in this again. And they're still very good in this, as is Levi Miller. Yeah, that guy from Pan and A Wrinkle in Time. Yeah, it's kind of weird to say it, but he's actually really good in this movie, and I really enjoyed his role in it. But still, I think that kind of one of the most interesting things about this film is how it plays off of your expectations. It pretty much sells itself on being one thing, but then but while still being that, it completely changes the way that it is that, and I love the way that it plays off of that. So I would highly recommend this movie just for the way that it plays off of expectations, and for a really great cast, which, by the way, includes Patrick Warburton. So yeah, if you weren't sold on this movie already, Patrick Warburton is in this. Seriously, just go out and watch it. But yeah, this is a very, very good movie, and I think that while it doesn't really need to be a Christmas horror flick, I think that it does embrace that very well, and I still think that it has a lot of fun with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my non-spoiler part. Now, let's actually discuss what happens after the home invasion. So, pretty much all that home invasion stuff that I mentioned before, that's pretty much just the first half hour of this movie. After that, it's revealed to have all been a hoax that was started by Luke as a way to, well, win over Ashley and prove how manly he was, pretty much. Which she obviously wouldn't go for, given that she says that he literally doesn't have to do that, but I guess he just really wanted to stick with it after he got started with it, so yeah. So when she finds out what's really happening, she rightfully just decides to leave. However, Luke knocks her out by hitting her with a gun. And, well, from there, he's kind of got to cover his tracks, along with his friend Garrett. And so they tie her up in duct tape, and pretty much it's a fight for control on all three sides. Garrett wanted to go with a path of least resistance, as he really just didn't even want any of this, and he's just sort of been wrapped into all this because, well, he's following his friend, Luke, who clearly wants all of this, and even invites more people over just so we'll have more people to torture, as he's kind of revealed to be a bit of a psychopath, and Ashley, who, well, just wants to get the heck out of there. So that's pretty much most of this movie, just that sort of struggle for who's going to actually get out of this, and who even really wants to, and that is where what I said before with the film playing off of expectations comes in, and it really does so beautifully. And like I said, the trailer is completely deceiving, and I really love it for that. That's why I'm so annoyed with everyone in the comments being like, oh, this is such a misrepresentation of the movie. That's the point. This film plays greatly off of our already well-known expectations with home invasion movies and slashers, and I love the way that it does this, as there are many points during the film where it completely threw me for a loop, and I loved every second of that. I love the way that this film decided to not give anything away, but also sort of already tell us what was going on. Like, in context of looking back at the trailer, there's a lot of stuff that, while makes sense in one context, makes even more sense in another, and I love the way this film does that. Honestly, to me, is a great example of just how exactly to play off of already well-known tropes and just how to completely twist them, and I love the way that it does that here. Another positive that I want to give this movie is its tone, more accurately, how it balances it. Now, this movie is both parts extremely fun and also very heartfelt and knows how to be dramatic, and I think that it takes really good liberties with both of those. Now, this is mostly accumulated in Luke and Garrett, as Garrett pretty much doesn't want anything to do with this, but does get wrapped into all this because he's such good friends with Luke, and because he doesn't want to jeopardize his friendship with him, and he's also worried about what he'll do to him if he does. So I really do love the way that plays off of that, and there are some very great and very dramatic moments that come from that. But on the other end of the spectrum, there's Luke, who pretty much came here to kill a bunch of people, and yeah, that pretty much is completely embodied when he decides to home alone a guy by smashing his head in with a paint can. There are really fun stuff like that, like also tying someone up in Christmas lights, that really just sort of makes this film, being a Christmas film, worth it. Like I said before, I would have preferred if it went for a more underutilized holiday, but I do still see why they went with Christmas, and they do take advantage of that where it's worth it, especially with the paint can thing, which was freaking awesome, by the way. So Yeah, it knows how to take advantage of that, but it also knows how to balance it out, as there are some really strong moments in this that I really think just sort of speak for themselves, and I really love the way they're handled, and there's a very good, very clear balance between them. Nothing in this movie feels like it shouldn't be there. The paint can stuff feels worth it, but also scenes with Garrett just apologizing to Ashley also feel very much like that they belong here, and I like the way that that's handled. So for this film's story, while I do have some minor nitpicks about it, I overall very much enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun with it. I knew exactly how to play off my expectations, and I haven't had something that did that this well in a long time, and I love the way that it does it so masterfully, and how either way would make sense in context, and I love the way that it's executed. But it also has a very fun and sometimes heartfelt feel. I think just sort of makes it a solid film overall. So for all you Christmas slasher or horror fans out there, or just slasher fans in general, I highly recommend this, as it has a great execution while still remaining very fun, but also taking time for some serious moments and and playing off of the expectations of this part of the genre very well. So for the story, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. But another part of what makes this film so good is its characters. So yeah, let's get into them. So for the characters, let's start off with something that's of course essential for a slasher, the final girl, that being Ashley in this. And she spends a lot of this movie, like pretty much most of this movie, just sort of tied up to a chair, whether by duct tape and Christmas lights. La 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 la. Yeah, it's not Christmas anymore, but this is still kind of a Christmas movie. So yeah, she spends a lot of this film just sort of tied up to a chair, so a lot of what makes her a strong final girl, of course, has to come from her dialogue, and I think that's handled very well here. You can tell that she's not just not you can tell that she doesn't just want to not put up with any of this, but also that she tries to manipulate the situation any way that she can. She is a smart person, and that's mostly evident by her going to college soon, which is where a lot of the struggle for her character comes in, as she does want to do more with her life, but there's also some stuff like her boyfriend Ricky that she doesn't really want to let go of, and I really do like that sort of conflict with her. At one point, she just doesn't really believe what's happening here, but eventually she just knows that she has to, or else, well, she's not going to get out of it. And I really like how they play with that. It really makes her more of an interesting character, and since most of her strengths come from just what she says, I think that's handled very well, and I found her to be a very strong final girl, and one that I really want to see make it out. That said, how she ultimately does make it out is really stupid to me. She was completely tied up in duct tape, like completely wrapped up in it, but somehow she got some duct tape and wrapped it around her neck wound. How? She was wrapped head to toe in that stuff, but oh yeah, she just somehow did this, just like, yeah, there we go, great, got it. I mean, how would that even have enough strength in order to just add enough pressure onto that wound? I'm sorry, this just really makes no sense to me, but yeah, they sort of hint at the end that she won't ultimately make it, as Luke suggests going to the hospital to pay her a visit, but still, I would actually kind of like to know how that actually played out. Maybe this is leading to a sequel, I don't know, but I would still kind of like to see that. I don't know, I think it'd be kind of interesting. So for Ashley, she makes a really great final girl, as she's sort of a survivalist, using everything that she has available to her advantage, and even things that she doesn't, she'll try to use any way that she can. And I really like that about her. There's also a great bit of conflict with her that I think makes her an ultimately pretty interesting character, and as one who's not very active in this movie, I really love the way they still play off of her strengths here. So yeah, I really did enjoy her in this, and her actress also does a great job, which is pretty much something I could say for all the characters in this, but there's one in particular that I think that goes to, and that is the next one that we're going to be talking about, Luke. So yeah, pretty much for every slasher film, we always, need the slasher. So here, that one pretty much comes in the form of Luke, and oh my god, there's so much to unpack with this character, and I love that there is so much to unpack. This character isn't kept in the shadows or completely ambiguous like some other Christmas horror films, and while I do really like those, trust me, Black Christmas, fantastic film. Black Xmas, piece of crap, but Black Christmas, great movie. But, yeah, well, there are some films that do play off of that very well. I just don't think that would have worked in this one. And so I really do love what they did with Luke here. Okay, so pretty much, for one, there's his age. He is only like 12 and a half, and he's going around killing a bunch of people. And given that his actor was very close to that age range when he was filming this, that sort of makes this all the better to me. So yeah, I really do love the way, so I really do just sort of love the fact that that completely plays off of expectations. I mean, yes, okay, there are a lot of creepy, evil little kids in horror flicks, but they're not often the slasher. I mean, sometimes, yes, we will get that, like, Alice, Sweet Alice or something, but most of the time it is some insane adult that just broke out of an insane asylum or something like that. And I really like that this film didn't go that route. It really makes for, I think that really makes Luke just an even more ambiguous character, as a lot of stuff is explained to him and he seems like a normal person, but you can tell that he just sort of hides all that, and I love that. He doesn't really have that bad of a life either. I mean, his family seems to be pretty wealthy, which, yeah, I get that that could lead to some neglect, but it doesn't really seem like there is that much of that, as they're, hiring a babysitter for him, and they still, like, they talk to him a lot and stuff from what we've seen. They obviously care about him, so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of neglect happening. And while he does mention a little bit of them getting drunk and arguing a bit, but that's kind of it. That's kind of the only negative thing, and let's face it, that just sort of happens with some families. So really, there's nothing all that bad about his scenario, which just sort of makes it even more questionable as to why he's even like this. So there's a lot of stuff hidden in ambiguity, but it seems that a lot of his problems seem to be rooted where his mother's concerned, something that's common for serial killers. Yeah, I've been taking a psychology class, if that's not clear, but so pretty much, it seems that a lot of his problems sort of started when he sort of got to stop sleeping with his mom after he was a kid. So yeah, pretty much when that happened, he just sort of seemed to feel alone, apparently, and that's kind of the only clue that we get about his past, or why he really became the way that he is. The rest is left completely up to us, and I really like the way that's handled. And I think that Levi Miller actually sort of put it best, as he seemed to really understand this character, as pretty much the way that he describes this character as he wanted 2 possessions that night, but instead he lost both of them. And I really do love the way that he sums up this character, and it seems that he really had a grasp of what made this character work so well, as he's not a good person, and that's something that I think that a lot of people didn't really like about this, as I've heard a lot of complaints towards this character, but while I do understand all of them, I mean, like, yes, he is pretty much toxic masculinity, and I get that, but I think that's sort of the point of his character, and I think that's why he can be such an interesting one. There's a lot of mystery left to his past, and I really do love the way that's handled, but then there's also the fact that he is actually fairly normal. At the very least, he knows how to hide that fact very well. So that makes whenever we get to see his true colors even more surprising, and I really do love scenes like that. And apparently, Levi Miller was able to play the psychotic parts way easier than the normal parts. What that says about him, I don't know, but I really do like what he did with this role, and I think that he is fantastic in this movie. If you have any complaints about him as an actor, which I do understand from some of his roles, I highly recommend that you give this a shot, just to see that he really can branch out as one. I really do look forward to seeing what happens with his career. So then there's also Garrett, who is Luke's best friend, and yeah, okay, so I've watched a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff from this movie, and that weren't already evidenced by me referencing something that Levi Miller said about his character, but pretty much one of the things I really like is that in the behind-the-scenes stuff, we're able to get a little bit more insight into Garrett's character, where it's pretty much revealed that he doesn't really have the best home life, as he pretty much would spend most of his time hanging out with Luke, and yeah, he pretty much was seen as a bad influence on him. However, it's actually just the opposite, and Garrett is actually a very good person, however very confused as to where his alliance should be, as he is very good friends with Luke. They've been friends for years, and that's why he stands by him so much. That's why he's a part of any of this, is because he wants to just stand by his friend and just hopes that everything will work out. Whereas that's obviously not the case, he just doesn't want to admit that, and I love the way that's handled. That's really where a great deal of the conflict for this movie comes into play. And I love the way that that's executed. Garrett is really an interesting and very tragic character in all this, as he is just as much a victim as all the others that get killed here, even up to the point where Garrett himself is shot. And it's honestly just really sad to see that he did see that when he ultimately did try to do the right thing, that's what got him killed. And honestly, just sort of his last words being that he just wants to see his mom just make him even more of a sad character, and I really did find him to be very tragically interesting. So I really do like that character, as he's both a fun one and sort of works as comic relief for a while, but ultimately we do see just how completely conflicted he is over all of this and just wants to get out of this scot-free, and I do love the way that's handled. And then there's Ricky. Okay, so now we're going into more of the boyfriends of Ashley territory, wherein there are two in this. And Ricky is, of course, the more prominent one. So pretty much for Ricky, he is a bit of a better boyfriend than her last one, as he seems to really care about her while also being a bit clingy and kind of a bit protective. And that's kind of where his only real flaws are, though. Overall, he's a nice guy who just sort of wants the best for Ashley, even encouraging her to go off to college and doing so much more with her life, because he knows that she has that in her, and he knows that he doesn't really. He's a likable character, and I honestly felt really bad that he gets such a gruesome death in this movie. Seriously, his death is his head gets bashed in with a paint can. I also feel kind of bad for the actor that he apparently had to be on set for all of those scenes after he gets killed, just sitting in the background there, being dead. Seriously, that's what his actor was called back to do. Getting a dummy is apparently an impossible thing to do for this movie. No, instead just pay this actor to be here to just sit there in the background and just be a dead body. Seriously, could they have not just gone a dummy? I don't get that, but yeah, I do so really, but hey, I guess that does sort of just show the sort of devotion that a lot of this cast really had to their characters, and you can tell they all really understood what motivated them and what really made them work, and that's another thing that I just really love about this movie, and why I like looking at behind-the-scenes stuff. So Ricky, while he does have some flaws, is overall a good person who gets dragged into this for good reasons, and you can tell that he really does care about his girlfriend and that he really just wants the best for her. And that's where some just really nice moments from him come from, and where I really found myself to like him. So yeah, I really did enjoy his character. Then we got Jeremy, the other boyfriend, and yeah, okay, so he's a whole lot less interesting of a character. However, he was played by the Red Power Ranger from Power Rangers, the new one. Actually, apparently he was about ready to start filming that movie while he was filming this one, so he actually wasn't allowed to do the hanging scene, so they just sort of did a lot of creative ways around it, and I found that to be pretty awesome. Like I said, I watched all the bonus features, except for the commentary for some reason. So, yeah, so Jeremy's character is mixed to me. On the one hand, you can tell that he does sort of care about Ashley, which is nice, but that's kind of it to him. Like, he's pretty much one of the more generic characters in this movie, as he's just sort of, Well, okay, it's hard to describe his character. I would say he's a bit like a rapper. That's kind of it. That's kind of what his character's like. He's just not overly interesting, but yeah, I guess his message to Ashley was really symbolic of stuff. It pretty much is just a fancy way of saying, I'm sorry, which was literally his first message, just, I'm sorry. But hey, I'll give him this, he's better at calligraphy than I am, so that's something, I guess. Yeah, he's just not a really an interesting character, which I think sort of stems from him not having that many scenes in this film, as yeah, he does have some build up to him, but overall he just isn't all that interesting, and it seems that he doesn't really understand what he did to Ashley, which was pretty much spread a rumor that they had sex when they never did. So yeah, his pretty much fancy way of saying, I'm sorry about that, even though he doesn't even know what he's sorry for, kind of makes him a bit unlikable. But yeah, I will say that I didn't hate him or anything. It's just he's not overly interesting, and I found Ricky to be a much more I just found Ricky to be a better character than him in pretty much every way. Then there are the last two characters, which is Luke's parents, Robert and Deandra. Robert is played by Patrick Warburton. That was awesome. Yeah, seriously, I love Patrick Warburton as an actor. He is great in pretty much everything, even Scream 3, despite whatever you think about Scream 3. I personally enjoyed it, but yeah, he's even great in that, and I really do love this actor, and he's great in this. He even gets to say the C word in this, so yeah, pretty awesome stuff. So, yeah, I really enjoyed Robert's character, and yeah, he was really fun to me. Same could be said for Deandra. I mean, she was, of course, a little bit less noble to me because she's not Patrick Warburton. I mean, I'm pretty sure that her actress has gone on to do a lot of other stuff, but I'm just far less familiar with her work than I am with Patrick Warburton, and yeah, so to me, obviously, he stood out way more, but still, Deandra's a nice character. I don't hate her or anything, and she seems to have more of an emotional connection to Luke, which is pretty much what I mentioned before, by him seemingly having started to turn psycho when he stopped sleeping with his mom when he was a kid. So, yeah. So, pretty much, she could be rooted as a cause for this, but still, I don't really blame her for it, as she did something that just parents naturally do. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, she gets more time on screen than Patrick Warburton does in this film, so, yeah, she does get more. So yeah, I would say that she gets a little bit more character, but yeah, I still enjoyed Patrick Warburton's part a little bit more, but overall, I think they're very likable characters, and yeah, even though they have very minor scenes, I still enjoyed them. So yeah, for the characters, I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10, because, well, there are a lot of them that I really do like, and I really do like analyzing these characters. There are also some that just aren't as notable to me, so yeah, that's pretty much it for the characters. For this film overall, well, I think I've already made it kind of clear, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. I actually rewatched it, well, kind of the day after I first watched it, and to me, that's just a sign that I really enjoyed this, as it is a very, very enjoyable film, but I will say that it definitely does depend on your taste, as there are a lot of people as I've seen a lot of people that either really enjoyed this film or just didn't overly. And I think that's honestly just something that you sort of had to see for yourself and just sort of make your own judgment on. But whereas I'm concerned, I very much enjoyed this. I love the way that it played off my expectations. It's fun, but it's got some pretty decently heartfelt moments, and it's got some very interesting characters. There are some negatives to it, though. Like, there are some characters that just aren't overly interesting, and the fact that it's a Christmas horror film doesn't really feel like there's a reason for it. I mean, yes, okay, I do very much understand why it is such, but to me, I feel like this could have taken place on any other holiday. I think that could have been an equally as good film, if not a little bit better, if it went for a more underutilized holiday, thus making it, you know, sort of branch out and be a little bit more distinctive. Like, seriously, this could have so easily been a Thanksgiving horror movie, and why do we have so few Thanksgiving horror movies? Seriously, why is Thanksgiving killing the only thing that's a go-to here. That's a really bad thing. But, yeah, I do still overall very much enjoy this film, and I thought that was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, for this movie overall, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10, as I had a lot of fun with this, and I highly recommend that you give it a shot. Even if it's not really for you, I still think that's at least worth a look. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys do too. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, and next review, we'll be starting our next theme month, and for it, I gotta do a bit of reading. So, yeah, join me for that.